Like, what kind of corporate PAC would be like, you know what we're going to do? Like, the Forward Party is going to, like.
Former Democratic primary candidate Andrew Yang has left the Democratic Party to start the Forward Party. This is his attempt to change the system to allow for viable third parties. As he discusses, the two-party system is not working, and I would agree with that. But there is one big question that he has largely been silent on, and that is the influence of corporate money and big money in general on politics and what that has done to the political discussion. So he was asked about this on an interview with TYT, the only place that I've seen him get asked this question. And his answer here, I think, is clearly insufficient. Check this out.
The real problem in this country isn't that, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have gone awry. The real problem is that they've both gone awry because they both get bribed. So if you form a third party, by the way, as you're doing here with Forward Party, and I'm curious to ask you, and so I'll do it right here, are you gonna allow corporate PAC donations? Because if you do, your party will instantly get taken over by bribery as well.
You're pointing out the core problem, which is right now our government is overrun by moneyed interests. The Forward Party, right now, we're just passing the hat to grassroots donors and individuals. We don't have any design on taking corporate PAC money. If we ever did, we would be totally transparent about it. But I'm going to suggest that people who are going to give to the Forward Party just want things to get better and change. Like, what the heck do we control? Nothing. Like, what kind of corporate PAC would be like, you know what we're going to do? Like, the Forward Party is going to, like we're the pro lowercase d democracy popular movement. Certainly, again, I'm practical. We're going to need resources to get our work done, and hopefully we can get it done, get those resources from human beings.
But I think what Cenk's also asking, though, is like going forward, if I may, is that when you do get to the point, obviously you're starting out now. When you do get to the point that there are candidates who are running under the emblem of the Forward Party, are you going to make that a tenet of the party to not take corporate PAC money during an election? Has that been talked about?
One thing we will have as a tenet is total transparency around who's backing a campaign. And I think that's what people should expect.
All right. Now, in a minute, I will get to a part of the party's platform that I think is a good idea. But first here, how do you acknowledge that corporate money in politics is an issue, but then in the same breath, you don't swear off corporate PAC money? How do you claim to hold, or that you will be transparent with that, when you can already look up, you can go to opensecrets.org, look up any politician and see the money they take. So they can all claim they're transparent because the information is out there, unless it's super PACs. But when it comes to corporate PACs, when it comes to donations generally, you can find a lot of that on Open Secrets. So everyone is essentially transparent. Transparency means nothing. You being transparent about your corruption doesn't solve the corruption. So I don't know how you start a third party movement because you're bothered by this duopoly, but corporate money isn't a major piece of the discussion. This is the entire problem with the two-party system, is that both parties are corporate parties. Now, when it comes to the social issues, yes, that's where the big differences are between the Democrats and the Republicans. But when it comes to the economic issues, you see right now, two senators are holding up just very basic social spending that the vast majority of Americans support. Many polls show the vast majority of Americans support what is in the budget bill. Yet that is not being passed because of the corruption that is behind Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, be it coal, be it Big Pharma. You have here obvious influences on politicians. How is that not a major piece of your discussion when discussing this idea for a third party? It blows my mind. But look, I'm trying to be fair here. There is a piece, a small piece on corporate or big money in politics in the Forward Party platform. So to show you that here, he does have democracy dollars. So this is also an idea that he brought up during the 2020 primary as well, where essentially As they write here, the best plan is to issue $100 democracy dollars to every registered voter that they could give to any candidate they can vote for in a given year. They are use it or lose it. If you don't use them, they simply expire. There are presently 250 million voting age adults in the US. If only 20% of eligible voters allocated their $100 to given candidates in an election cycle, that would be $5 billion, enough to counterbalance all the money that is currently being sourced by companies and special interests. If a congressional candidate got 10,000 people excited, he or she would get 1 million, enough to be competitive. Now, I think this is a good idea. It doesn't solve the problem, but it's a good idea. But how do you acknowledge what part of the problem is, or what the problem is here with special interest groups flooding the system with their money, but not swear off their money? Just doesn't compute. And it's not even just a conscious thing, because Andrew Yang there says we'll be transparent about it. That isn't the issue here. The issue is if you hold a fundraiser, where oftentimes these fundraisers are like $1,000 to like $5,000 a plate, and think of the people that attracts. So you're talking to wealthy executives. You talk to a wealthy big pharma executive, and they decide to then give you $15,000 to your party for that year. How does that not impact you, even subconsciously? That you had this face-to-face interaction with this person from this large company, they gave you $15,000. That's going to impact your politics. So, and this is ultimately the problem. A lot of these politicians, these lawmakers, don't go in there with the intention of being corrupted, with the intention of doing the bidding of certain special interest groups. It's simply the company they keep, who's around them, be it lobbyists, be it these fundraisers. It's the people you talk to. So when you largely interact with lobbyists and corporate executives, you're going to have a certain worldview that maybe you didn't have before. So I don't know how you launch a third party with your problem being this duopoly and not understand that corporate money is at the heart of that issue, that both parties are to the right economically of where the public is. The vast majority of people, look at any poll, support an expansion of healthcare, support wealth taxes, support a higher corporate tax rate, support free public college. I mean, you can go down the list. When it comes to the vast majority of economic issues, higher wages, another one. The vast majority of economic issues, the vast majority of people side on the progressive side of those issues. So, I mean, if you watch these interviews with Andrew Yang, he's going around right now, all these different places. He talks about 20% of extremes on both sides. That, yeah, one extreme wants Medicare for all. The other side wants no immigrants coming in. Like, they are very different in terms of their approaches here. To simply equate the two sides as equals is ridiculous. And again, completely, it goes to the BS mainstream narrative that, most people are in the center of the country. But what does the center mean? Maybe the center on social issues, yes, there's a little more debate there. But when it comes to the economic issues, most people are on the progressive side of the spectrum and largely don't even realize it. I mean, when you look at polling on how people self-identify, be it left, right, center, or I think it's conservative, moderate, liberal, most people identify as moderate. But what does that mean? What does moderate mean? Without any specifics, it doesn't mean anything. So this is why you have to look at actual polling on policy issues, and that will give you an idea of where people actually sit. And they sit on the progressive side on these economic issues especially. But Yang here, he doesn't care. I think his interest really is about being able to grow the party and grow this. And I'm sure he understands that it's going to be a much harder time for him to grow without having that corporate money in the party. But in having the corporate money in the party, then you just become a third corporate party. It's ridiculous. But I will give him, I want to be fair. Again, I want to be fair. I think this is a good idea. They say here it's time for open primaries and ranked choice voting. Sure, yes, these are things that should be done. But if you still have corporations buying the parties, doesn't mean a whole lot.